Hello and welcome to this new show which I've devised that's going to have a little look at games that were not released in PAL territory, so that's games that didn't come out in Europe. This time around I've taken a Dreamcast game, and this one's called Baldr Force EXE, quite an unusual one, and this is probably best described as like a 2D shooter game, like action game, mix of an erotic novel. Now, this was released actually really quite late into the Dreamcast's commercial lifespan. Bearing in mind that the PC release of this, which came first, was in 2003, the early part of 2003, and the Dreamcast version of this didn't come until the late part of October of 2004. Keep in mind that the console was discontinued in 2001, so 3 years after it was discontinued as a commercial release, and this isn't really even the latest Dreamcast game you can get, but quite interesting really that it's not just strictly speaking a visual novel game, which are quite inaccessible for anyone that doesn't speak Japanese. This game has a reasonable amount of gameplay that you can enjoy without really understanding what's going on. We're going to sort of have a little play of it and see just to what degree we can enjoy it without really understanding 100% what's going on here. Worth noting, this game had a PlayStation 2 conversion as well, which came out the following year in April of 2005. So across the board, they're quite a long way into the cycle of the 6th generation consoles. And if you want to obtain a copy of this game on eBay today, probably not worth sleeping on this one if you do plan on picking it up, because it seems to be hovering around the £60 to £70 mark at the moment. If you go for bidding, you can obtain it for far less. I was quite lucky to grab this for, I think, under £40. It was just some sole listing on eBay, but I believe that was an absolute steal. If you do have a PS2 though, you can get this really, really cheap. It's about 14 to £20. So if you do have a PS2 that's capable of playing imports and you are interested in this game, it's worth keeping that in mind. Okay, with that all said and done, what we're going to do is have a little deep dive into the actual gameplay itself. Now, the premise of this game is it's set in the future, and there's a network basically which the player can dive into, and it's called Simulacrum. Which is quite a mouthful really. Try saying that back to yourself. This special edition version of the EXE has extra modes and extra weapons in it, as well as adding a lower difficulty as well, which I think is probably going to help with my first playthrough of this. The PlayStation 2 version is slightly superior to the Dreamcast version, coming out a year later, because it has different songs and voice acting and cutscenes and stuff. And there's also extra modes as well, and that's not in the Dreamcast version, so just keep that in mind. But it's good to see this sort of game on the Dreamcast, and like I said, a lot of the later stuff for the console was just visual novel type stuff. This sort of mixes action elements into it as well, so it's quite refreshing to see. Obviously, this does sort of fall in line with the later type software, where a lot of it was 2D type shooters that didn't perhaps utilise the graphical capabilities of the machine like it could have. But hell, it's here, and that's good. I want to sort of go over the graphics of this game, and also sort of what we're hearing in the sounds and sound effects of it, so let's have a little look at that. Getting into the game, booting it up, you have to actually excuse me, you've probably noticed by the footage here that it's a bit skewed for some reason or another. I do apologise for that. It's not really what you want to see, is it? But alright, we're here anyway. So booting up the game, you get a nice animated intro sequence for it. Nice little catchy song going over the top of it as well, which is kind of cool. If you do get this game, have a little listen to it, it was good. And on the menu screen itself, it is very text heavy and quite difficult to navigate your way around. I did actually find the option to put this game into very easy at the very least, so that's what I want to try first, because I've never played this game before, so I don't really know what to expect. And when you actually get into the game itself, there is a lot of dialogue going on here. Some nice voice acting work going on as well, which is kind of nice. And but yeah, there is a load of text introducing different characters and different scenarios of what's going on, and I've skipped through quite a bit of that because I can't really keep up with what's actually happening there. The pictures aren't really telling me too much. But as you start off the game itself, I quite like the aesthetics of it. It looks okay actually. It's not far removed from something you would have expected to see on the 3DS at this point in time, to be fair. But for the time, 2004, it's not an ugly looking Dreamcast game by any stretch of the imagination, so it's not hard to see why it was ported to the PS2 as well, because its presentation is pretty good. Animation wise seems pretty basic when you're not controlling the character, and I'm still not 100% sure what I'm sort of be expecting from this game, but as I got into the first part of it, and it did give me a few bits of dialogue, it threw me into the action, and it is actually what seems to be like a curious mix between, I don't know, maybe Loaded, which is an old Sega Saturn PS1 game, a bit of Power Stone thrown in there as well, sort of the chaotic fighting element of it, bit of Virtual On, and funny thing is the general game world reminded me a little bit of Burning Rangers for some reason. You know, the characters' sort of outfits and the general look kind of reminded me of like an isometric version of Burning Rangers. I mean, you might think that as well, you might not. You might think I'm absolutely mental, but that's just what I took away from that when I just first booted it out there. But control-wise, it's quite it's quite easy to play. Analog stick obviously moves you around the playing field here. The X button is your general attack button, so that's the one I was using the most of, just mashing that around first time, just to try and win the rounds here. There was also I found that the trigger on the bottom of the controller allowed for like a dash move, and I think the Y button might have given me like a special move or something, because I did manage to pull off more impressive attacks than initially just pressing the X button. So with a little bit of exploration, I think that this game is actually very, very accessible. So based on that factor, would it get a recommendation from me for you to import this game? And I think it would. I don't think there's much here aside from the story that you couldn't play and enjoy here. It does have a certain element of pick up and play nature to it. I don't know really what the story is. I don't know whether it's something to do with it is just basically you are in a simulation and you're fighting, or whether there is a further deeper story to it, whether there's some sort of espionage element of it. You and your team are out to steal something in this sort of building environment that you're in. You sort of head off to the rooftops and stuff and jump off there, and leads to scenario 2, which this is just the first level that I've shown you as gameplay, so where it goes from there it might very well branch off into different elements of the story. But with all the Japanese text, what you could do, where it controls scrolling through the A button, so once you've finished a sentence, press the A button and it'll go on to the next sentence, you could in theory just have your phone or tablet running Google Translate, and it might give you a very rough explanation as to what is happening in the story of it. So don't discount that out, that if you did want to enjoy it in its entirety, maybe don't wait for a translation to come, which probably inevitably would later on down the line. Give it a Google Translate and see what that can do. Modern technology is a marvel. Maybe in the next 10 years we'll have glasses which you just put on our head and they'll translate everything for us. That'd be lovely, wouldn't it? But until that day, so just keep in mind that if you are going to buy this, that yes, although you can play a fair element of the game and enjoy it, which I did, there is a huge story backlog which you probably won't be able to understand unless you can read Japanese. So grab this game while you can. I like it, I was quite impressed with it, and I'm going to continue to play it, which is the main thing. It's not one of those games I just picked up and thought, I'm just going to put it in my collection and it'll disappear for the rest of the time. I'm actually going to sit down and give this one a try. So that's a recommendation for me, and if you tune in on the next episode, I'll cover another Dreamcast game which was only released in Japan or in the USA. So see you next time, bye bye.